What is up guys, and welcome back to SP Vids. As you can see in this video, I've got the MPC 2000 XL, and next to it I've got the SP404sx. Now as the video goes on, you'll see that these things are completely interchangeable, so you don't specifically need an SX, you don't specifically need a 2000 XL, but these are the things that I've got, so obviously these are the things I'm going to demonstrate with. And what I'm going to talk about today is different workflows that you can accomplish with these two devices. As I say, obviously they're interchangeable, so if you've got on 303, 404, a 555, an SX and an A, that can be this unit, and any sort of legacy MPC as well. So that's kind of the devices that I'm talking about. Got the super wide camera up above today, so hopefully you can see everything because there's a lot to get in this shot, and we've got the other camera over on the left as well, so hopefully that gives you a decent view of everything that's going on. So I've been getting a lot of questions about workflow between these two devices in the comments recently, and I've also been getting questions about whether or not these are a good combo to have together. So I just want to address those first. First of all, it's super easy to use these together in a workflow, and I'm going to go through all those obviously later in the video. Yes, you can use these together. Do I recommend it? Yes, absolutely, for the reasons that I'll also state in the video. They're just such a killer combination, these two devices. One thing that I really want to draw your attention to before we start are these cables. I really recommend you getting hold of a couple of these cables. So you've got a phono left and right at one end here, and then you've got the jack left and right at the other end here. Because the MPCs accept these 3/4 inch jacks and the SPs accept RCA or phono, these cables are going to be really useful. I'd recommend getting two so you can go back and forward really easily without having to change, but one at a minimum. This will really help you out. The other option is to get a phono to phono cable, and then you have to have two adapters to convert it to these at the other end, but these cables just make it a lot easier. So yeah, pick up a pair of these, and this will go out of the back of this and into the back of the MPC like this, and vice versa when you want to go out of the MPC and into the SX or whatever device you have here as well. So yeah, really recommend picking those up. So that's just something I wanted to mention before we started, and we don't need those now. I'm not actually going to do any audio in this video from these devices. I'm just going to explain the workflows. So let's get started with this first workflow, which I'll talk about now, and that's having the SX before the XL here. So as I mentioned, this could be an SX, it could be a 303, it could be an A. This will be first in the chain for this workflow, and then we're going to have the XL as second. And again, this could be any kind of legacy MPC as well, whether it's a 1000, just the 2000, the 2000 XL, any you can think of, this should work with. So really, it's about using the devices specifically for their strengths. So what are the strengths of the SX? Amazing effects built in, very, very fast chopping time as well for samples. Really fun little box for getting chops into very quickly. The legacy MPCs can be a little bit time consuming to do that, so I would seriously recommend using this for your chops and then importing those into the MPC at a later date. So that's one way you can go about it. You record into the SX or whatever device you have here. You get all your chops ready, maybe even your drums as well if you want to do some processing on those. Then once you're happy with what you've got here, use the MPC for its incredible sequencer. So that's the strength of this unit. The sequencer on this is really bulletproof. You've got awesome quantization, and if you don't want to use quantization, it's also really good as well. So much better sequencer in here than in the SX and the A and the 303 as well. But again, you know, these are my opinions. It depends what kind of vibe you want, but this is kind of what I'd say is like traditionally thought of these devices. So much better sequencer in here, but we've got all the effects and we want to use those. So how can we make use of those? Well, firstly, what you could do, say if you've got a vinyl over to the right here, well, over to the left, sorry. I'm not going to go any further than that because I don't know if you'll be able to see my hand. So you've got a record player, that's coming into the SX, and then that signal is running through the SX and into the MPC. You're going to record on the MPC, but you can use the effects on the SX as the signal's coming through it. So you're kind of using that as like an effects unit. So that's one way you can go about utilizing the SX. The other way, I think I've already just briefly mentioned it to be honest, is to record all your samples into this. You could have effects applied when you're recording in, and then you can resample on here to your heart's content basically, get experimental, do whatever you want to do on here to get that lo-fi crunchiness. Then once you're done with processing and whatever you want to do on the SX, record those individual chops and drum sounds into the MPC and then use this as a sequencer. So they're basically the two main ways of using it before the unit, in my opinion. So another idea which you could do is to just have the chops in the SX and have your drum loops in the XL, and you could just play the chops in here with whatever effects you want on them and have the drum loop running on here, and obviously you could build different sequences as well. So that is another idea of what you could do. I really want to try that with the 202 and the XL, so have the really kind of lo-fi gritty chops in the 202 and build the drum loops in the XL, and then just play them over the top while the drum loops are playing from this, because this is just, obviously, like I mentioned before, this is a great sequencer, so it's perfect for laying down drum loops. I've seen that a few times on Instagram recently, and it made me think I really want to try that combination. So that's another thing you could do. So there are a lot of different options that you can have here, guys, and it's really up to you guys to try them and see what works best for you. So let's pretend these are switched around now. And all of a sudden what we have here is a completely different workflow where the MPC is doing the grunt of the work, and then the SX is going to be used afterwards for doing some more effects processing and possibly sequencing a beat together as well, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second. So let's say you're a big fan of the MPC workflow. You can do everything that you want to do in here, put the beat together, chop up your samples, use the 16 levels, program your drums, etc, etc, etc. You can get all that done in the MPC, and then we take the signal out of the MPC and we move it into the SX or A or 303, etc, etc. So we get that signal coming out, and then what we can do is a number of different things as well. What we could do is use this again as an effects unit to be in the chain before we're recording. So say we've got another recording device after the SX, we put the MPC signal out into the SX, apply whatever effect we want. Obviously we'll only be able to add one because we're doing it on the fly, or you may want to do live effects and play around with them as the beat's running. So that'll come through, go to the recording device, and you can use that as an effects processing unit. The next method that I think you could use to good effect in this sort of workflow is once you've got segments of the beat made on the MPC, this could be completely pointless actually, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyway. Say you had a sequence, let's say you had a song or a beat with 3 sequences, so you've got A, B and C. You could record A, B and C onto separate pads on the device that you've got over here on the right, whatever that may be. In my case, the SX. So on pad 1, 2 and 3, I could have sequence 1 as a loop, sequence 2 as a loop, and sequence 3 as a loop. Obviously there'd be a bit of trickery getting those loops working exactly as you wanted them to get them looping perfectly. And then what you have is essentially a similar workflow to the resample method, where you have different parts of the song on different pads, and then you can just switch between them, playing the different parts of the song in the order that you wanted to. What this does as well is it gives you the opportunity to use resample on those individual parts, so you could resample them to your heart's content again and get a really gritty sound, and then you've got each part on a pad like so. Another way that you could use this as well, something that I've actually just thought of right now, is if you had all the stuff happening with the beat on the MPC 2000 XL, what you could use the SX for is just for triggering Foleys and noises and vocal samples, rap noises, that kind of thing. So you could have a huge bank of them all saved on your SX, and as this beat's playing, you could just use these over the top as you're recording out to a separate recording source, say your computer or a portable recorder. So I think that's pretty much everything I can think of, guys. Obviously, you're going to have your own workflows. I'd love to hear what your workflows are. I might not have time to reply to every single one, but I'd still love to read about them. So if you want to put them down, and I'll leave a like and a heart if I have read the comment, just to show a bit of community appreciation. You could also use this before, process your samples, and after as well, if you're happy to just swap the cables as you're going along. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this. I know that people run stuff out to it and back into the box again, all kinds of crazy combinations. So yeah, leave them below. What's your favorite workflow? Myself personally, I would love to use these more. I'm not really an authority on these workflows yet because I haven't done a lot with them, to be honest, so that's something in the future that I definitely want to do more with. Okay, so I think I've rabbited on enough about this for now, so thanks very much for watching, guys, and like I mentioned, if you can leave your workflow below, if you've got any others that you want to add on the top of this, that would be really, really helpful for the community. Don't forget to head to spvids.com and pick up some drums if you want to support me that extra little bit and help my channel. All the people that are picking up drum kits at the moment, thank you so much. It really, really helps. Some of you are going on and buying every single pack that I have at the moment, so I really, really appreciate you spending your money on that. It keeps the channel going and it keeps me going as well, so thank you very much for doing that. And just a big shout out to all my members as well. If you want to become a member, hit the link below in the description. You get some little perks for doing so, and you can support me every month for a very small amount. That also really helps me as well, so huge shout out to all my members for supporting me over the months. That does mean a lot too. Apart from that, guys, as usual, keep making beats, and I will be back with more lessons and beats very soon. Peace!